Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Society of San Francisco. My name is Meg McGuire. I've been grateful to be the Ministerial Intern here this year and to be with you for a few more weeks. And I want to welcome all of you, whether you are a longtime member or a newcomer or anywhere in between. I'd encourage you to take a moment before we begin to download our order of service. You can find it posted in the chat, on our website, or it's emailed each week to anyone who receives our newsletter. So you can sign up for that now too and get our newsletter and the order of service going forward. The order of service is going to be useful as we move through worship together. It's got lyrics to our hymns and a sense of the arc of the service. It's useful after the fact, too. You'll find there are listings of upcoming events that Daniel will take us through in just a moment. And it brings to light some of the people who have made this service possible. I want to take a moment to thank them. Jonathan Silk, who is the whiz behind our live stream technology, Shulee Ong and Eric Shackelford on our cameras. Joe Chapeau, as always, is monitoring our chat. And I want to thank Les James and Tom Brookshire and Alex Darr, who host our Zoom coffee hour. This morning, we're also grateful to Thomas Brown, our Sexton, who opened up the building and got this space ready for worship. Judy Payne for the beautiful flowers. Mark Sumner, our music director, and soloist Ben Rudiak-Gould are joined here this morning by pianist Larry Chinn. And I am joined here on the chancel by worship associate Daniel Jackoway. Daniel, we are so glad to have you back on this coast. And I want to take a moment in gratitude for all of you who, while not here in body, are felt each week here in spirit. As we have since last year, we begin by lighting our blue candle. That with the kindling of this flame, we bring your presence more fully into this space. Today, as Mark reminded me, is an occasion that happens only once every 7 years, where our Sunday worship falls on the 4th of July itself. So I want to wish you all a happy 4th of July, whatever that means to you. May you celebrate and rest into this day in whatever way you are called to. This is, I think, a holiday that demands that we hold seemingly contradictory truths, which is part of our theme this morning. That we hold simultaneously the high aspiration on which our country is founded, this radical vision of equality and freedom to pursue life and liberty and happiness, and the coexisting realities and contradictions, the enslavement and genocide on which this country was founded, and all of the people, women and Black people and Indigenous people and people of color, who were not then included in that radical vision of a democracy grounded in and in service of realized equality between people. We are reminded this day, as much as any, that the dream on which this country was founded is still not realized. And there have been generations of people who have fought to truly manifest it, and that task is still ours today. So we gather on this Independence Day holding vision alongside truth, remembering as we recommit. May we carry on the work to make this country and this world a realization of the inherent worth of all people that we know to be true. May we strive not only for equality, but also for equity. And may we realize not only a dream of independence from oppression and tyranny, but one of interdependence, mutual care, and shared thriving. This morning, we are looking to that work that is ours, and to the practices and strategies that support its realization. Sunday worship is, after all, a chance to reset and reflect and deepen in connection so that we enter into the week and our work in the world clearer and more committed. So in that spirit, we begin. Please join me singing our opening hymn, number 352, Find a Stillness.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Now please join in the unison chalice lighting. The words are in the order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together. Now, let's deepen into worship together, singing our meditation on breathing. You can find the words in the order of service, or just listen to the song leaders. Join in as you feel called.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
As a covenantal rather than a creedal faith, it is the promises that we make to one another that bind us together. I invite you to join me in saying aloud these promises in the form of our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue. De todos bajo el gran sol, surge esperanza, fe, amor, verdad y belleza cantando, de cada tierra, cada voz.
Recognizing that there is human suffering all over this world in the course of natural and human catastrophes, we ring our gong today in honor of two such places of suffering and struggle. We ring our gong first, as we have since July 2019, for those lives held and those lives lost in federal custody in our detention camps, for the mounting trauma to children separated from their families, for all people held without charges in less than transparent and humane circumstances. In this repeat of some of the most shameful chapters in our nation's and our world's history of xenophobia, racism, and greed, we ring the gong 7 times for this week of days in which human dignity has been dismissed and our responsible for that as citizens of this country rings out clear. We ring our gong additionally once in acknowledgement of the ongoing losses to COVID-19. This last week, 53,405 people died of COVID-19 globally, including 2,121 in the United States alone. We hold in our hearts all of these losses, nearly incomprehensible in scale, each one of that number a person who was loved and who loved. We hold in our hearts those nations where medical care is taxed to the brink of its abilities with devastating consequences. And all who await the global distribution of vaccines that, to be fair, will require a significant commitment by the wealthy nations of the world, ourselves among them. So much to remember and hold. May we keep those we have named and their loved ones in our thoughts and prayers, and may we ease the tide of human suffering this coming week, howsoever we can.
I invite you to join me for a time of spoken and silent meditation. An invitation to bring our attention to the space in between. The space in between words, between sentences, between notes, the space between breaths, the space between you and me, and you and you, and me sometimes. What does the space have to say? Does it yell? Whisper? What does it hold? Is it shaped by absence or holding space for presence, or both? May we pause this hour remembering our capacity to widen these places, remembering the possibility to make more room for more of you and more of me and more of us. May we look to that space in between for the ways it can clarify and confuse, for the ways that it holds and disquiets, for the answers it can give, and even more so for the questions it sparks. May we enter together now into a time of shared silence, a practice of making space in between together. Spirit of life, mystery that flows within and between us. We pause this morning, honoring our wholeness and our striving, bringing our broken hearts and our steadfast commitment, holding losses deeply personal and undeniably shared. We pause this morning with gratitude for that within and around us which constantly adapts and regenerates, for that which reminds us that we and our world are always being made and remade. We pause with gratitude for those who have traveled this way before us, our well ancestors of blood and spirit, for their resilience and their gifts. We pause with gratitude for that deep knowing that our liberation is inextricably bound up together, for that longing within each one of us that we may yet get free. And we pause for the love that guides us, that holds us, and that calls us forward. For all this, and for those whispers within each one of us, we pray. Amen. Ashe and blessed be.
I have a mantra. When you're out of time, slow down. When you are out of time, slow down. I frequently have to relearn it because in the heat of the moment, when an urgent problem is the only thing on my mind, slowing down is the last thing that I want to do. I'm already behind. Taking a pause will leave me even less time. But time and again, I see that urgency is self-defeating. I don't think that I am alone. How many of us have rushed out the door so efficiently that we realized 5 minutes later that we forgot something crucial at home, and even though we are already late, we have no choice but to turn back? Or has anyone else cranked up the heat on dinner only to burn it, requiring extra time to salvage the meal? Or am I the only one who has put together IKEA furniture without carefully understanding every instruction, and thought that I was finishing in record time, only to discover a mistake a half an hour ago that requires me to take everything apart again to get it right? Time and again, rushing creates more delays to get it right. This also happens to me with general urgency, where I don't have one urgent task, but I feel overwhelmed by the sum total of everything I must do. I work what we used to call an office job, which has thankfully become a work-from-home job for the moment, where my work requires thinking and focus and judgment. I have learned that a mid-afternoon break makes me feel much better. And I've even seen, time and again, that it generally pays for itself. After my break, it is so much easier to focus and do good work for the rest of the day that I make up for the 15 minutes spent on the break and get just as much done that day. And yet, when it's 2:45 and I'm in a little bit of a haze and stressed about how much I need to get done and how slowly I am making progress, it is hard for me to actually get out of my chair and take a walk. I get into a stressed mindset, a scarcity mindset around time. As I think about it now, from a distance, on a Sunday morning, it makes no sense. I know a simple trick that will make me happier and more productive. I should be dying to take full advantage of it. But in that moment, it's hard for me to believe that logic and actually commit to taking a break. It is hard for me to believe, in the face of urgency, that a break is part of the most productive way forward. I have found some ways to interrupt urgency hijacking my brain. At work, I can put my breaks for the week in my calendar Monday morning. Then, the decision of whether and when to take a break is already made when the break comes along, which helps me minimize the reluctance that urgency brings out. But I haven't beaten the overall pattern. I am still working to be mindful enough to notice when I am rushing and need to take a step back. It is frustrating that I have coined the mantra, "When you're out of time, slow down," years ago, and yet I still haven't fully put it into practice. But I guess I can't rush it.
Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Will you ease this pain? Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Will you ease this pain? Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy flame, may you burn bright again. Holy breath and holy flame, may you burn bright again.
It's deja vu all over again. The future ain't what it used to be. Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Yogi Berra is widely regarded as one of the greatest major league catchers in history. He was a coach and a manager too. But the reason that I learned about Yogi were his yogiisms, the dozens of amusing aphorisms and pithy paradoxes that are attributed to him. It ain't over till it's over. It gets late early out there. You can see a lot by looking. Notably, Yogi has also quipped that he didn't really say everything he said, but the so-called yogiisms are a lovely legacy either way. Just about all of them are funny, and many of them, maybe most of them, are also surprisingly profound. They offer an invitation into contradiction. They are simple truths, made somehow more wise when stated uniquely. I was reminded of Berra this week as I realized that there are a whole slew of similar phrases about urgency and slowing down. Daniel's mantra is one example. When you're out of time, slow down. But there are others. There is only time to go slowly. Your rushing is slowing us down. There is urgency that we slow down. On the surface, these phrases seem contradictory, but turning them over, perceiving them again from a different angle can yield surprising insight. The one that got me started, I came to know from Dr. Bayo Akomolafe, a prolific author and lecturer who says that his most sacred work is in being with his daughter and his son. There is an African saying, Dr. Akomolafe writes, "The times are urgent. Let us slow down." Hearing it, he says, I knew I had happened on something important. These are urgent times. That part feels clear, right? I don't want or need to enumerate the intersecting crises of our times. We know these things, whether by heart or body or intellect. And this year has laid them bare for anyone for whom they weren't plainly obvious already. These times are urgent, and they long have been. Following the 2016 election, Adrienne Marie Brown, a healer, facilitator, and author, offered this: things are not getting worse. They are getting uncovered. She shared those words again following the January insurrection earlier this year, this time written into a poem. Things are not getting worse. They are getting uncovered. A reminder in the moments where for some of us it can feel like a boiling point. A reminder that there were moments before this one, and there will be moments after too. A reminder that there are foundational wounds, histories and legacies behind those flashpoint moments, that what feels new is the unveiling. The heaviness, she says, is the increasing weight of the truth, becoming undeniable as more people believe it. There has long been urgency, and long been a need for it. On this 4th of July, I think of Frederick Douglass's seminal speech, "What to the slave is the 4th of July?" The speech is a harsh rebuke and a call to action. It is not light that's needed, but fire, he says, not a gentle shower, but thunder. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The consciousness of the nation must be roused. Douglass called then for a reckoning already long overdue when he delivered it 170 years ago. In a video produced by NPR last summer, 5 of Douglass's descendants read excerpts from that speech and reflect on its bearing on the current moment, then in the midst of the uprisings in defense of Black life. Listening to Frederick Douglass's great-great-great-great-grandchildren reflect on the continued relevance of that speech, it's sobering and powerful, attesting to the foundational nature of the injustice of white supremacy that we are called to counter today. I think of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's use of the phrase, the fierce urgency of now, in his Beyond Vietnam speech, delivered at Riverside Church in 1967. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, he says, there is such a thing as being too late. I am struck in these speeches by the not newness of urgency, the reality of it, and the value of it. So urgency is nothing new, but there are moments, personal ones and collective ones, where that uncovering or unveiling happens. We've had our share of these collective moments in the last year. Flashpoint moments that start movements or revive them in new form. Acute crises that expose structural inequities that long have been. And there are personal unveilings too. Moments that uncover something, that make a connection, that can shake us awake to something beyond our immediate personal experience. Can you remember such a moment for yourself? Can you remember a moment when a headline or an experience or a story touched you? When feeling welled up in you? When you felt that urgent call to act? Maybe it was just the other day, or maybe there was a seminal moment of uncovering years ago that stayed with you since. Can you remember what you felt then? Just before the urgency came over you. Was it grief? Anger? Fear? Did you feel it in your stomach? Your chest? Being awake to the world, this most human of vocations, sometimes it can be devastating. And still, those moments are important. The feelings they bring up are important. I, for one, am indebted to the work of Joanna Macy, who articulates how feeling pain for the world is a sign of living. It's an expression of love for creation and for one another. These feelings inspire us to action. The urgency they promote is important. Faced with multiple crises, with the reality that in some of what we face, we can be too late, urgency seems like the only reasonable, accountable response. And yet, there is a moment that stuck with me from when I was working as a labor organizer. Brimming with the idealistic impatience of an emerging adult and overwhelmed with the massive task of combating economic injustice, all playing out in the bustling context of New York City, needless to say, it was a time when I moved fast. On this particular afternoon, I was rushing to catch a train, rushing and running through a to-do list in my mind and carrying a cup of coffee that was already sloshing over on me. I was consumed by an urgent task. I had to catch Maria before she left for work and let her know something. The nature of that urgent something I can no longer remember. And so there I was, completely consumed by the to-do list in my head, the total urgency of my task, what seemed then like the critical linchpin in the larger struggle for worker justice, and it hit me. Or rather, I hit her. I ran smack into Maria, the very person I'd been running to find. I spilled coffee all over both of us and was jolted in an instant out of the self-important and self-absorbed urgency that I was carrying with me. And of course, Maria, as we mopped the coffee off of both of us, graciously let me know that she was, in fact, already totally aware of the very thing I was so frantic to tell her. These times are urgent. Let us slow down. If you have told me that morning before our collision, I would have protested vehemently. I could not possibly slow down, and neither should you. But in the years since, I have heard this call reverberated, different takes on it echoed by activists and thinkers working at the intersection of multiple oppressions, people like Ebony Janice Moore and Angel Kyoto Williams and Adrienne Marie Brown and Alexis Pauline Gumbs. Meeting urgency with urgency, they say, will not get us where we need to go. On the most practical level, we know that rushing can slow us down. Daniel shared that insight so well. The dinner turned up too high, burned, that small mistake made while moving frantically, costing hours in repair. But even in the moments where rushing seems to save time, there's a cost. Operating from a place of urgency can keep us stuck in the same tired patterns, trying the same things and expecting different results, fighting fire with fire. We can miss opportunities and resources that are all around us. At worst, our hurry can unwittingly reproduce the harmful patterns of the very systems we are fighting. It can incentivize sacrificing the necessary and slow work of building relationships and coalitions for measurable, short-term gains. Urgency thinking can diminish creativity and narrow our view, leading us to forego reflection or strategic planning that might make our work more effective. It can have us working when we need to be resting, locked into an unsustainable cycle of doing that ultimately burns us out. A lot of this, I think, is intuitive. We see it play out in our everyday lives. One piece, though, that just dawned on me is the way that urgency requires disconnection. It disconnects us from the heart that inspired the urgency in the first place. At its worst, urgency uses action to fix or distract from feelings of pain for the world. The heartache, the fear that woke us up in the middle of the night, the love for life that undergirds it all of those deeply important human emotions lost in the rush to action. We know that these times are urgent. Faced with a warming climate, the legacy of centuries of white supremacy and colonialism, the persistent impacts of intersecting oppressions that harm every one of us, there is no time to waste. These times call us to channel the urgency we feel into steady, wise action. We will need every ounce of creativity and capacity that we can muster. We will need creative and courageous tools, frameworks, and ways of working together. We will need to be grounded in our bodies, our feelings, our values. And we will need community that can hold us through it all. Community like this one. Ready to rise to the urgency of this time thoughtfully and effectively. Ready to feel, to reflect, and to act. Beyo Akomolafe begins the lecture, "The times are urgent, let us slow down," with scripture. Born in a Christian home to Yoruba parents in western Nigeria, he begins with the word Selah. Selah, a Hebrew word that appears no less than 74 times in the book of Psalms. Selah. While the exact translation remains a subject of speculation and debate, the greatest consensus is that the word is an invitation to pause. Selah shows up at the end of verses, both praise and lament. Selah, pause. It is an invitation to slow down, to breathe. Selah. And so, may we pause. May we slow down. May we breathe. And from that place, may we act courageously and creatively together. May it be so. Amen.
For I am strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of
And so, in our comings and our goings, may the light of love shine upon us. Out from within us, be gracious unto us, and grant us peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Go in peace.